Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Blue Reviews, your destination for critical thinking in the realm of the unexplained. Please don't forget to smack that like, share, subscribe button. Check out the links below. There you will find our Patreon, and it's for as little as $1 a month. You can help support this show. One of the very few shows that is actually giving you the straight information when it comes to this UFO discussion and huge buildup. And we're going to get into it today. Let's see here. Yeah, that's it. That's everything I want to tell you guys about. I hope you're having a killer week. I am having a very, very fun week. Just got back from an audition. Sorry, this show is going to go off at 1, but and then I changed it to 2, and then I changed it to 4 o'clock. So there you go. But yeah, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. All right, so what has gone down since the last time we have been on? A lot. A lot of there's a lot of interesting things happening in the community right now. In particular, we've got, oh, darn it, I need to take this call. Need to take this call, you guys. I'll be right back. Be right back. All right, you guys. Sorry about that. I had to take that phone call. Apologies. That's just, it happens sometimes. But anyway, okay. So let's get into some of the stuff that happened this week. First of all, there is a new UFO coverage Twitter account called Skyfire News, and from what I can gather, this is headed up by Keemstar, and it's also pretty much hosted, and it looks like it's hosted by Red Panda and Tupacabra on Twitter, and they are two UFO personalities and editors and filmmakers, and one of them is kind of controversial. A lot of crazy stuff was said in the past that somehow has just been, I feel like, lost in this whole thing. And so I've got mixed feelings about Skyfire News and sort of where it's coming from, but the thing is that they're doing actually pretty decent work at keeping everybody up to date with the little happenings, the little minute things that I think a lot of people are missing when they're talking about this topic. And so, good work is praised when good work is done. And so, yeah, these guys have been clipping a lot of stuff. I've got their link in the description below, so if you guys want to go check them out on Twitter, you can go do that. And oh, by the way, hello to everyone: Lord Ludacris, Michael Huntington, Swin McLeod, Simon Fly, Complizier, Wise Monkey. Thank you guys so much for being here. I did see that somebody either subscribed or something, so whoever did that, thank you so much. Shout out to you. And so, the thing about these guys is like they're clipping all of sort of the relevant stuff, the relevant things that are said within the community. And so I really wanted to focus primarily on Kirkpatrick and the things that he was saying. And I've bookmarked my three favorite things. And the first one here this is the one that caught my attention largely because this is information that I hadn't heard anywhere else before. Now, the thing that I wish Sean Kirkpatrick would do, and sir, if you're listening, if somehow, some way you are hearing this show, I would love for you to start calling these guys out by name because you're inferring who they are. We know, the people in the community know exactly who you're talking about. So when he references a pilot that saw a cube within a sphere, everyone knows that that's Ryan Graves' story. Even though he didn't see it, one of his co-pilots or his other flightmen saw it and told him the story about it. Ryan Graves hasn't actually seen anything with his own eyes, and he has admitted to that. But this idea of a cube within a sphere, and a lot of people were theorizing and showing diagrams and sort of little patents on radar reflectors that look exactly like a cube within a sphere, and they're within a balloon and they float, and they're radar reflectors that they keep off the coast of the United States for whatever the reasons are. And so that was like the leading hypothesis on what those could be as far as a rational explanation to something that a pilot might have seen. And so this is Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick actually addressing that very claim, and he explains exactly what that pilot probably saw. And this is technology that, hey, it's the first time I've heard of it. The tech like this. So this is actually a really, really cool clip. And this clip was first shared by Stephen Greenstreet. And by the way, if you haven't already, go by Stephen Greenstreet's page, give him a thumbs up, a thank you, just a shout out of appreciation, because this guy has had it right for the better part of more than 2 years. I'd say closer to 3. And I mean, the third year, though, that first year that he was investigating this, it's such a crazy, big, broad picture that has things all over the place that it's really difficult to put this puzzle together. And Stephen Greenstreet has done an amazing job at that. And here's the thing, you guys, the media is catching up. And we're going to go into why I think the media is finally starting to catch up to the reporting of Stephen Greenstreet and the FOIA work of John Greenwald and the experiences of Jeremy McGowan and me and countless of other people that have crossed paths with exactly who Sean Kirkpatrick is referencing in this podcast. And by the way, the podcast was the Peter Bergen podcast on CNN. It's a CNN podcast, I suppose. And so we're going to listen to this first clip. And again, this is former Pentagon UFO head Sean Kirkpatrick on Peter Bergen's podcast saying the infamous cube within a sphere touted by Ryan Graves is actually a spherical drone. So let's hear what he's got to say. And let me turn up the volume here so you guys hear this. Oh, wait, I got music going on. Let me kill the music. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. All right. There we go. Okay.
There's a large number of people, pilots who, have said, hey, I saw this giant sphere. It had a cube in it. I don't understand it. It must be an alien. Well, actually, no. The next generation of drones that are being built are spherical drones. And one of them is they've taken about a 2-meter size inflatable, and they put a cube inside of it. And everywhere the corner of the cube touches the sphere, they fused it, cut it out, and put little thrusters in. With 8 thrusters in a cube configuration, I can maneuver this drone around very accurately. And they've tried these all over the place. There's a large number of people, pilots who,
So there you go. Like, he's talking about a drone, okay, that has fans on each corner of it. So you've got 8 fans where the thing can move in any direction, and it's insanely accurate. Insanely accurate. So it's like, I wonder what Ryan Graves going to correct or say, oh, okay, yeah, maybe that's what that was. So that's one very cool clip that we saw in this. This is just a stupid clip right here from the Thomas Fessler show. I'm not even going to play it, but these morons are just on what Susan Goff is wearing. Like, that's their big thing that they're focused on right now because they're idiots. But here's another clip from UAP James from the same interview. And again, if you want to check out the whole interview, I've linked it in the description below. I'm going to play the last 15 minutes of it. We're going to go through it because I think he says some interesting things, and it might repeat a thing or two here that we're just going to clip. But I think these clips on their own, we could break down and talk about. So this is another clip. This one was put out there by UAP James, and he puts out here in this one, Sean Kirkpatrick claims David Grusch has been misled by a small group of UFO true believers, compromised by members of ATIP, TTSA, and those helped to draft the UAP legislation, a clear reference to Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon. He calls them out basically all but by name. And this is why I would hope Sean Kirkpatrick on his next whatever interview he does, and I have a feeling, man, it won't be another one for a while because he pretty much laid it out very well in this one. I would love for him to start calling these guys out by name and really start breaking down either the grift or the belief or the I don't know what they're up to. And that's the whole thing. That's the $1 million question. Like, what are these guys up to? And they kind of talk about it in this interview. And the analogy they use is an ice cream cone that licks itself. It's just these guys, it's exactly everything that Stephen Greenstreet has been saying. And it's exactly everything that I've been saying for a year and a half now. This is a huge distraction. And what I didn't get right was that this whole attempt was to normalize and very much ground the UFO topic where it belongs. In science, look at it, but there is no scientific evidence of anything extraterrestrial happening on this planet. Zero. And that's been done already by NASA, and that's been done by the independent group at ERA, with many scientists with higher credentials than David Grusch and Gary Nolan and any other scientist that has spoken on this topic so far, and that has had access to these things other than the other guys. So let's play this clip.
Kirkpatrick says his investigators ultimately traced this game of top secret telephone back to fewer than a dozen people.
They're some of the same people that worked for Robert Bigelow under the DIA program. They're some of the same people that have been working behind the scenes with Congress to write legislation. They're the same people that worked with a U.S. company and the United States Army to explore a piece of material that they claimed was a UAP, and it really is a piece of missile casing from the 1950s.
Unreal. That's another wonderful nugget that we got just now from Kirkpatrick. The CRADA agreement between TTSA that came from Linda Moulton Howe, of course, it's debris from a rocket in the 60s? What a joke. What a joke. No wonder why we didn't hear anything else from the CRADA agreement and the TTSA materials, because they don't want you to know that it's a piece of a rocket. Shh. I don't know what happened to that alien material. We sold it to the government. the company that wants to prove aliens exist, sold the only piece of alien material to the government in hopes that they would come back and tell us that it was alien material. But instead, they told us it was a piece of a rocket from the 60s. And so, yeah, we just stopped asking about it pretty much after that. Fooled a whole bunch of investors. I mean, he's calling them out. He's saying it's the same people from the Bigelow era. Just like I've been saying, like, this is OSAP and ATIP revamped and put on steroids, and now has actually influenced not only lawmakers, but intelligence officials like David Grusch into thinking that there's aliens within our atmosphere, when really, and Dr. Kirkpatrick goes over this, it's a lot of the times, more than 9 times out of 10, it's balloons. And and this is why I want to play the second half of this interview, because he really gets into the numbers of how many balloons are released into our atmosphere every single year, and how lawmakers, the reason why they're destigmatizing this, the reason why they are trying to calm the jets on this UFO discussion, is because they need to pay attention. They need to get pilots and ground personnel to pay attention to things, weird looking things specifically in our skies, and to not stigmatize when people talk about them, because more than likely they could be spy drones or some sort of other kind of drone, like a drone swarm that could attack either nuclear facilities or very public places. And that's a very real threat. And they much rather, I think part of this is that the DOD much rather have, it's like pick your poison. Would we rather have people talking about aliens and UFOs in our atmosphere, or we'd rather have people talking about the very real national security issue that this country's facing right now with the drone problem? And also just all sorts of different new kinds of balloons within our atmosphere. And another little thing that I didn't hear about until this interview was this company in Florida that creates these glow-in-the-dark balloons for backyard birthday parties. And if you fill them with helium and strap them together, they could be multicolored, look like a worm, and go really high into the atmosphere. And it's a flight safety risk. But it also causes a lot of problems when it comes to pilots reporting UFOs in the sky. So I was right. I was right. And it sucks. Like, this is not the answer people want, but because this is such a very big problem, they are trying. I think there are better ways they can try even harder to quell the conspiracy on this stuff. And it's with interviews like this and the op-ed that he wrote in the Scientific American. Like, these are the things that real lawmakers that actually have access to the information, because they sit on the committees that allow them to look at that information, are listening to this guy. They're not listening to Burchett. They're not listening to Luna. They're not listening to Moskowitz. They're not listening to the Bible thumpers that are calling these things angels and demons. Those guys are the loony bin. They're the fringe of Congress. And all of you suckers have attached your credibility, your personality, any sort of sense of soul to these people, and they are fringe lunatics. And you refuse to get off of their coattails. You refuse to step back and look at this information in a just more rational way. This information is information like this. I have a feeling is what's going to really be coming out now. And the reason why people like Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon and George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell and all of these prophets of profit are screaming at the top of their lungs because they don't want the normalization. They don't want the destigmatization of this discussion, because then there goes all of their paranormal money and all of their lore and spooky stories and werewolves smoking in trench coats and dino beavers and apparitions appearing in front of people and portals and all that bullshit. All that bullshit. He's telling you that it's the same fucking people that are leading lawmakers, and they all are connected to each other. Just like we've been screaming at the top of our lungs for the last year and a half. Excuse me if I pat myself on the back or if I toot my own horn, but beep, beep. I told you guys this was coming. When you have a belief system that gets a cold bucket of water like this, it's going to either piss some people off or really wake some people up. And we're going to hear the stories of what Sean Kirkpatrick already had to face with one of these nutballs showing up at his house. But let's listen to the rest of this clip, shall we?
They're the same people that have been influencing some of these whistleblowers who have come forward to say, hey, I don't have any firsthand evidence, but all these people are telling me this. Here's what I know.
The most public of these whistleblowers is the former Pentagon official, whose voice you heard at the beginning of the show, testifying about crashed alien spacecraft before a U.S. congressional committee.
I was informed of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
Biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
So he's one of the individuals that I think this core group of people that have
Listen to
influenced
this.
him, have told him this information. He may have.
So he's telling you the guys from Bigelow, the guys from TTSA, the guys from all this bullshit, everyone that I just named was in this guy's ear, was in Grusch's ear and playing with his thoughts and his brains and whatever he was thinking. And we've already shown he's got a clinical medical history of being committed to a mental facility. So who knows what these UFO grifters has been whispering, what wine and poison they've been whispering into his ear that he's been falling for. So much so that he's lost his security clearance, and now he's doing podcasts with Yes Theory and Ross Coulthart on News Nation. I told you that's gonna be its peak. That's as high as this discussion is gonna get. There's the bar you guys set. And man, it isn't even ankle high. You could just literally step right over it. Such a low bar that you guys set for this being evidence, for David Grusch being the truth. You immediately believed. You didn't question it for 1 second. And he's telling you all of the same people that have been in your ear for the last 30 years also got in this guy's ear. And you're saying, well, how is that possible? He's too smart. He's too smart to fall for something like that. No, he's not. No, he's not. Clearly, this discussion has shown that really smart people can fall for some really silly shit. I am an example of that. And so is Stephen Greenstreet. So is Jeremy McGowan. And so is Gary Nolan. And so is Lou Elizondo. And so is Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp.
Have misinterpreted things that people have said, or he may have just fallen to the influence of what these folks have been telling him. In either event, at the time I left, he had not come in to speak to Arrow, so I can't say with 100% what he has to say, only what he's put out into the media and what others have come to tell us. So you see what I'm saying? There's this commonality.
He hasn't even come in. He hasn't even come into the Arrow office. Why? And who am I going to believe here? Who's telling the truth? The guy that hasn't shown the lie about anything yet with a much more immaculate resume and scientific degrees and experience in the field? Or the guy who's been going to UFO conventions and hanging out with fake theoretical physicists and doing the podcast circuit because he's a cool guy now?
Is actually quite ironic, because the true believer about UFOs thinks that there's a government conspiracy to hide real evidence of aliens. What Kirkpatrick is saying is the actual conspiracy is being carried out by a group of UFO true believers to get the government involved in the business of investigating aliens. I was searching for the right metaphor, but I think this is known as a self-licking ice cream cone.
That is a self-licking ice cream cone, exactly.
The self-licking ice cream cone is a Pentagon term of art for a program that exists only to perpetuate itself.
So again, these are a bunch of disgruntled government employees looking to perpetuate a program that they can take advantage of and collect government contract dollars off of with the organizations that they've organized to put themselves in the position to collect those dollars. A self-licking ice cream cone that is going to continue the lore, to continue the money coming from the government. And it's over for these guys. This is as far as you guys are going to take this farce. It's over. The whole point of the Aero Office is not to discover whether or not there are aliens in the atmosphere. The whole point of the Aero Office is to find things that look weird in the atmosphere and figure out what they are, because they're probably enemy drones. And calibrate all of our sensors and get up all of our military personnel caught up to the fact that our enemies are making these drones look weird on purpose so they don't report them. We've been saying this for over a year. We've been saying this even when we were good with Lou Elizondo. When that Tyler Rogaway article came out in the Drive almost 4 years ago, talking about it was a book a miniature book that he wrote on the topic of the drone issue within the United States. It was eye-opening because it makes sense. It's the most logical thing. But there's a lot of you out there that refuse to listen to logic. But I'm telling you right now, UFO Jesus and all of you zealots out there like UAP Mike and KMF and all of you UFO Joes and all of the Jeremy Corbells and the Liberation Times and all of the, oh God, that UFO podcast and Signals, all of these prophets of profit, your industry is going to die really, really slowly. Why? Because that's exactly what the Department of Defense is going to try and do, is actively doing. That is their mission, to destigmatize this as much as possible so we can get to the root of the issue. And it's not aliens. It's just not. And that's not just me saying it. That's the head of Aero saying it. That's a Department of Defense employee telling you that's exactly what they're doing. And so here is a clip. This is a Skyfire News clip. Again, links are in the description below. And this is the harassment that Dr. Kirkpatrick received. And this is another new little nugget that Sean Kirkpatrick dropped in this interview. I didn't know it went this far, but I'm not shocked. Definitely not shocked. And, oh, God, man, I usually don't wish ill on people, but I really do hope that these consequences stretch to the people that should serve some consequences for the things they've done, they've said, they've intimated, they've attacked, they've harassed on so many different levels. They've doxed, lied about. I hope you get your comeuppance. And I'm going to laugh when it does happen. And I hope it does. I hope it does. But let's see how far these zealots take it.
Did the strong feelings on either sides of the issue come home in a personal way for you? Were you ever subjected to harassment?
Absolutely. That came home a number of times, not only to me, but to other people. So
It came home a number of times, not only to me, but to a number of people. So people were at home when they either received a phone call or somebody showed up at their fucking door.
associated with the office in the form of harassment and threatening letters. I even had some guy show up at my house. It makes it very difficult to do this job.
When you say a guy showed up at your house, what was that about?
That was early on, right, after I got announced, and the FBI did a great job of swinging into action, tracked this guy down. I was told, because I never had to confront him, that he was an emotionally disturbed person that had showed up on my property and had stayed there overnight and was just waiting. And unfortunately, my wife came across him, so that was a bit unnerving, but they got him and arrested him.
And
Could you imagine? That's crazy. All because he's doing work to actually get to the bottom of UFOs. And the answers that he's getting, the people showing up at his doorstep don't like. And they've been worked up to a point by certain people, to a point where they show up at scientists' doors demanding, why aren't you telling us the truth?
And how was it for your staff?
This is a point of contention with the public and with Congress that I have refused all the way up to my last days to provide names of people working on my team and my staff to anyone outside of the department. And the reasons for that are safety and security and privacy, right? That has added fuel to the conspiracy fire. We got letters at the Pentagon all the time. We get emails all the time. And of course, in social media, I get beat up often.
Because there's a narrative out there that the Pentagon really has secret information that it's not revealing. Is that the principal complaint?
Yeah, it's that. And then they further then accuse me as being the spokesperson that's lying for the government and hiding all of this information and all the material. And
yeah, so another wonderful little clip. Someone had said,
Did the strong
let me check out. Apparently there's a Diana Pasulka clip. Is this the clip you guys are talking about? Talks about what happens to those who research UFOs. Yeah, this is probably it. But here's the thing, is I've heard Diana Pasulka say things like this before, and she's a victim of this. She's the one going to the Soul Foundation. She's on the tour. She's on the podcast tour. And it's not because this stuff is real or that she's an interesting conversation. I mean, she kind of is, but not really. I mean, I think she's one of the most boring people in this conversation, to be 100% honest with you. And just one of the kookier ones. Like, I don't think I'm not calling her kooky, but just the theories and the things that she's equating and sort of connecting, and her and Gary Nolan are talking about. It's just to me, it's kooky. It's kooky science. It's no other scientists, legit scientists, are actually backing what this woman is saying. They're just not. But let's see what she has to say.
So what I found was that there were several different factions within the perception management of UFOs. And one of the factions was responsible for sadly harassing people who do research. And I found this out by being harassed.
How so? How were you harassed?
Okay, so, here I am, just your average professor doing their work and doing it pretty well. And then I start to study UFOs thinking that they're not real, thinking that it's just a new form of religion. And then quickly having people come into my research sphere, who are, part of CIA, part of FBI, that kind of thing, and then getting a shock that, whoa, this could be dangerous and maybe I shouldn't be doing this. But
So-
I did get harassed, though. I did get harassed, and it still happens.
How'd you get harassed?
Most of it is doxing and email harassment at my university began, and both to me and Gary at the same time, and people showing up.
People.
Yeah, people in my town showing
Like
up.
what kind of people? Schizophrenics?
No, but
No?
but people you wouldn't want to
Loons?
meet. Yeah.
Loons.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
you think that's targeted? Do you think that's on
Oh, it's
purpose?
for sure.
But do you think that also that might just be people that are obsessed with this particular
No.
subject?
These are people that are affiliated with the people in those that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt.
I would love for her to get specific. Who is she talking about? I mean, the thing is that the same intelligence people and the same people that are from the Bigelow tree, just like Kirkpatrick had just discussed, is one of those people is Gary Nolan. And that's who she's talking about when she references Gary. So the same people that are in Gary's ear are in her ear. And she thinks this is real. They've got a North Carolina professor thinking that UFOs and aliens are visiting the planet. And now she's on Joe Rogan saying this shit. And it's just like, dude, when are we going to stop this? This is a whole nother issue. I mean, I'd like to talk about what Dolan said. But let's go into, because I want to go, again, play the last few minutes of this interview. And I've got it on like a speed through, so it's a little faster. So we should get through it a lot faster in about almost half the time. But this will be like a 7-minute clip. I'll stop in between and comment on some of these things, but let's take a listen.
Biggest risk is stuff that is in the air that we don't know is there. And why don't we know it's there? Because it's not something we would track. Balloons are one of the biggest hazards right now, and it's growing. There's something like 10,000 balloons launched daily.
10,000 balloons launched daily. That's insane. And the thing that a lot of these aren't even being captured on camera. Like, that should also give you an idea of if a UFO is real, how rare it would be to see it. Because if 10,000 balloons are going into the sky each day, I see maybe a cluster once every month. If I'm really paying attention, maybe 2. So, and there's 10,000 released each day. Of course, that's probably in the country. I wouldn't assume that's around the world. Can you imagine how many balloons are going into the planet's atmosphere around the world in a day? That's crazy. And to think that some of these are, again, companies that make glow-in-the-dark balloons.
Everything from weather balloons to just party balloons that have escaped. One of my favorite things is there's this company in Florida. They make these backyard lighting balloons. Some of them are round, some of them are tic-tac shaped. And they're black on the top, and inside they have lights, and they're helium filled, and they're strapped down in people's backyards for backyard parties, and they get away. When we talk to the company, they're like, yeah, we lose them, and we sometimes find them again, but generally not. Well, that's a really weird looking thing. Lit from the bottom, not lit on the top, big tic-tac thing flying around. Well, what is that? That kind of stuff is a flight hazard. So on the one hand, I've got military pilots that are flying at greater than Mach 1. If they run into a balloon with a tether on it, it's going to rip a wing off. That's a problem. But on the other hand, if I'm a commercial airline, you get one of those sucked into an engine, and that's not going to be good.
When you were in the office, a huge news story was the Chinese balloon story, which brought to the public that clearly there's a national security interest in the United States understanding what might be flying around that we haven't identified.
That's right. The office's mission is not to prove the existence of extraterrestrials. The office's mission is to minimize technical and intelligence surprise. That is the primary mission.
The Pentagon this week described the unidentified object shot down over Canada on Saturday as a, quote, small metallic balloon. So it was either a dire national security threat or a wasted 25 cents at a county fair.
The Chinese balloon story is an example of the US government's new posture towards UFOs working as it should. Since 2020, the Pentagon has worked to standardize, destigmatize, and increase the volume of reporting on UFOs by the US military. This work has involved calibrating sensors and improving the quality of data that those sensors collect. That's how Chinese spy balloons got spotted in the first place. And while balloons are low-tech examples of UFOs, Arrow is especially concerned with keeping an eye out for more high-tech stuff.
I'll give you an example. There's a large number of people, pilots, who have said, hey, I saw this giant sphere. It had a cube in it. I don't understand it. It must be an alien. Well, actually, no. The next generation of drones that are being built are.
And think of this as well. I mean, I believe Lieutenant Graves, correct me if I'm wrong, but that wasn't 2004, right? What year was Lieutenant Graves? What year did he see that? And he's saying that that's the next generation of drones. And he actually gives you what the drone technology is, which means that's already old tech. It's already tech that he could talk about publicly, which means that there's even more high-tech drones now doing even probably crazier shit than this one that he's about to describe, which we heard a little bit of this earlier today, but it's worth another listen.
Spherical drones. And one of them is they've taken about a 2-meter size inflatable and they put a cube inside of it. And everywhere the corner of the cube touches the sphere, they fused it, cut it out, and put little thrusters in. With 8 thrusters in a cube configuration, I can maneuver this drone around very accurately. And they've tried these all over the place.
So far, most of what Kirkpatrick says about the report he just handed over to the US Congress isn't super new. That explanation about Roswell, for example, echoes the conclusions of several US government investigations carried out in the 1990s. But I think Kirkpatrick does break some new ground by suggesting a new origin story for modern allegations, that the US government has been hiding crashed alien spaceships. He says these allegations largely come from just a small group of people inside the US government, or with close ties to it.
True believers are not just outside of government. Many of them are inside government. Many of them are in places of authority and decision-making, and you don't know who they are until they come into the office and have a discussion about this.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Listen to that again.
Most of what Kirkpatrick says about the report he just handed over to the US Congress isn't super new. That explanation about Roswell, for example, echoes the conclusions of several US government investigations carried out in the 1990s. But I think Kirkpatrick does break some new ground by suggesting a new origin story for modern allegations, that the US government has been hiding crashed alien spaceships. He says these allegations largely come from just a small group of people inside the US government, or with close ties to it.
So the allegations of craft being crashed, 1114, whatever the number is of craft, alien craft, it comes from a small group of people. Kit Green, anyone? Hal Puthoff, anyone? Jacques Vallée, anyone?
True believers are not just outside of government. Many of them are.
True believers are not just outside of government. Many of them
inside government. Many
are inside government. And that shows. Like that, we obviously know who they are.
Them are in places of authority and decision-making, and you don't know who they are until they come into the office and have a discussion about this.
Fascinating. And you recall that New York Times in 2017 released the videos of the famous Tic Tac, and that story attracted a lot of attention.
The U.S. Navy has finally acknowledged that videos appearing to show UFOs flying through the air are real.
They released video, including a 2004 encounter when 2 fighter jets chased an oval-shaped white object near San Diego. They also released a second video.
The Times story itself was certainly generated with people who had information that came from inside the government. So has there been a sort of self-reinforcing loop, in your view, that produces pressure from Congress to investigate what the hell's going on? Then that becomes an office. That office is the office that you then ran.
Correct.
I don't know what kind of cycle that is. Is it a virtuous cycle, an unvirtuous cycle, or how would you describe it?
The way I look at it is, if you follow the information that we've laid out in the historical report, you've got people that talk to people who come in to tell the story or tell the media, but it turns out none of them have any firsthand evidence or knowledge. They're all relaying stories that they've heard from other people. And if you track where all those people know each other, it all goes back to the same core set of people.
Wow. Where have we heard that before? Stephen Greenstreet, anyone? John Greenwald, anyone? Lou Reviews, anyone? Manny, Area 503, anyone? Like, There have been a lot of people that have been screaming this at the top of their lungs for a long time, and these last couple of weeks have been vindication for you. Take a bow. You deserve it. Like, you deserve it, because you've put up with a lot of bullshit. I've put up with a lot of bullshit in the last year and a half. My family's put up with a lot of bullshit in the last year and a half. Stuff that you guys don't even know about. It's coming, and you better start getting mentally prepared for this day if you haven't already, because if you're believing hardcore, man, your bubble's about to burst. And it's funny, at the end of this interview, I think Kirkpatrick puts a bow on true believers perfectly, and we're going to listen to that as well, but let us continue.
Kirkpatrick says his report doesn't name any of the names in this core group, but there are two people at the group's center whose names and involvement have been pretty widely documented elsewhere. The late Senator Harry Reid and his longtime friend Robert Bigelow, a Nevada billionaire and the owner of a company called Bigelow Aerospace. Both of these guys shared a long-running interest in UFOs.
Senator Harry Reid was a true believer and thought that, hey, the government is hiding this from congressional oversight.
And in 2007, Senator Reid got funding for a Defense Intelligence Agency program that paid $22 million to his buddy Bigelow's aerospace company.
So this is Stephen Greenstreet's reporting, almost verbatim, that they're discussing right now. Senator Harry Reid was a believer. He was a believer, guys. He wasn't just curious. He believed this shit. And he got $22 million for his friend to look at it. And all of those friends went on in some way, one way or another, to inspire and launch everything that we see today. Everything. So it all kind of starts at the Stanford Research Institute, but then it really blooms at Skinwalker Ranch. This whole idea of getting government dollars, this self-licking ice cream cone, to feed itself. And that's why you ended up getting drunk guys on Skinwalker Ranch making up reports to keep the money rolling in, to keep the job going, because it's a decent paying job. It's a government contract. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Money the company spent on investigations into paranormal phenomena. Among other investigations, Bigelow's team looked into sightings of UFOs by US military personnel and proposed setting up laboratories to study the purported physical remains of off-world spacecraft. One of the main scoops in that New York Times story that touched off so much of the recent UFO hype a few years back was the fact that this Pentagon program existed at all in the first place. Senator Reid and others later proposed setting up other secret programs with similar missions.
None of that actually manifested in any evidence, but it did cause a number of things that people could point to and go, hey, see, there's a compartment over there that's supposed to be holding, extraterrestrial material, but none of it had anything in it. It's all window dressing, if you will, no substance.
But he says the stories about these secret programs spread inside the Pentagon, got embellished, and got the occasional boost from service members who'd heard rumors about or caught glimpses of seemingly sci-fi technology or aircraft. And Kirkpatrick says his investigators ultimately traced this game of top secret telephone back to fewer than a dozen people.
They're some of the same people that worked for Robert Bigelow under the DIA program. They're some of the same people that have been working behind the scenes with Congress to write
Travis Taylor? Much? Anyone?
Legislation. They're the same people that worked with a U.S. company and the United States Army to explore a piece of material that they claimed was a UAP, and it really is a piece of
TTSA. Anyone?
1950s. They're the same people that have been influencing some of these whistleblowers who have come forward to say, hey, I don't have any firsthand evidence, but all these people are telling me this. Here's
Lou Elizondo? Chris Mellon, anyone? Jeremy Corbell? George Knapp, anyone?
You heard at the beginning of the show testifying about crashed alien spacecraft before a U.S. congressional committee.
I was informed of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval.
We heard this part.
This core group of people that have influenced him, have told him this information. He may have misinterpreted things that people have said, or he may have just fallen to the influence of what these folks have been telling him. In either event, at the time I left, he had not come in to speak to Arrow, so I can't say with 100% what he has to say, only what he's put out into the media and what others have come to tell us. So you see what I'm saying? There's this commonality.
What he's saying is
and the commonality is bullshit. It's a lot of show but no tell, or a lot of tell but no show. That's really what it is. They make this big fuss in the news and the media, but they don't actually show up to the office and show them the goods. You got your opportunity. I mean, if there's whistleblowers, again, the protection's been put in place. Right now is the time. Right now, you are legally obligated to come forward and tell your story. If you know of any back reverse engineered UFO alien programs, you are legally protected by law to come forward. Where are they? And when they do come out, they don't actually show up at the office. Why? There's a commonality with these little freaks, isn't there? It kind of sounds like a Bob Lazar or Jeremy Corbell or George Knapp when you ask them for the actual data. They don't show up. They just complain. They just turn around and complain.
Because the true believer about UFOs thinks that there's a government conspiracy to hide real evidence of aliens. What Kirkpatrick is saying is the actual conspiracy is being carried out by a group of UFO true believers to get the government involved in the business of investigating aliens.
There is a pack of true believers that is trying to get the government involved and interested in investigating aliens. That's what I said a year and a half ago, and people were calling me fucking crazy. And there you have it from Dr. Kirkpatrick himself. Like, feels good. Feels good. But at the same time, it bums me out, you know? Like, this is not what I want it to be. You know, that means what I saw, what happened to me, what I saw and what I experienced is wrong. It's wrong. That's not fun. It's not. And it's very difficult to just let go of that. But I have to. Because that's where the data goes. That's where the data goes. And that's what I'm trying to tell you guys. Obviously, not all you guys that are watching. Most of you guys get it. Most of you guys dig exactly what I'm spitting here. But the ones who hate this show, the ones that used to love this show, you are being led down a path of stupidity and disappointment. Big disappointment. And that disappointment is going to turn into frustration and anger. And you're going to want to know why you were lied to. You're going to want to know why it was made such a big deal. For what reason? I can't wait till Matt Ford comes to this realization. I can't wait till Rob Heatherly figures out that he's being used by a small cadre of military people that are playing to your beliefs and your gullibility and your dedication to duty. And you're being used like a sucker. Just like I was. Just like Liberation Times is being used like suckers, just like that UFO podcast and Vinny Adams and all of these grifters and liars, Ashton Forbes, all of these guys. And that's a whole nother thing. Like, why are we giving, like, I don't want to go off on that tangent. Maybe I'll talk about it at the end of the show. Just trying to stay on Kirkpatrick and the facts and what is grounded and what is real.
I was searching for the right metaphor, but I think this is known as a self-licking ice cream cone.
That is a self-licking ice cream cone, exactly.
The self-licking ice cream cone is a Pentagon term of art for a program that exists only to perpetuate itself. Now, you've heard lots of good reasons why an office like Arrow should exist and should be keeping track of unknown non-alien objects in the skies. It keeps Americans safer, whether they're flying fighter jets or sitting in coach. But that's definitely more boring than perpetuating stories about aliens, which is...
No, these guys do not talk that fast. I just have it on a different speed so we could get through it a little faster. I don't want to actually sit here for a half hour and listen to this stuff. I just want to get through it, stop it, talk about it. And it's also, copyright, we're changing it a little bit. So there you go. So we shouldn't get tagged. But again, if you guys want, the entire link for this interview is in the description below right now. So you can go listen to it on your own time. It's on iTunes. It's a great, wonderful interview. And if you are a believer, if you just step back and listen to this conversation, what this guy's telling you, I believe that what he's saying for the most part is accurate and honest and true and real. I think this is a national security issue and not an alien visiting Earth issue. Just like you kind of start to hear Tim Burchett coming around on that a little bit. And I can tell you this, if Tim Burchett finally gets his shit together and figures out that it's Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon and Gary Nolan and Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp, all of the people that he's been listening to, the same people that Dave Grusch is listening to, the Tim Galladays, the Ryan Graves, all of these guys, when he finds out that they are in this for the self-licking ice cream cone to take dollars from the government because they know the government is wasteful. If he finally comes around and figures that out, you're going to see Tim Burchett take a different tune on this discussion. Because if he finds out that these guys are positioning themselves to collect government dollars to fatten their wallets, he's going to be pissed. He's not going to be happy. And this ally that you have is going to do a 180, just like everyone else who's gotten close to this topic and has figured this out. It's all about the money. Always has been, always will be, and it is in the interests of the Bigelow, Knapp, Corbell, Elizondo, Mellon crew to keep the mystery alive and thriving. And they need to keep it in the news stream, and they need to keep it within the zeitgeist, because that's how they get their TV contracts. That's how they get their scripts approved. That's how they get their books written. And that's how they make their fucking money. That's how they sucker you to fucking steal out of your pocket your hard-earned cash so they could buy indoor swimming pools and do fake documentaries where the first 7 minutes of their documentary is filming themselves. Wake up.
Yes, that the UFO office has another unstated mission.
Yes, I mean, a lot of this is, look, desensationalize this problem. It's to put objective, fact-based reporting and analysis and...
Thank you for the $10 donation. I'm not here. This isn't happening. I really appreciate it. A group of discredited ex-intelligence community science/operators are getting the government that rejected them to fund their efforts, real or not, as a fuck you and get paid. It's now the government-funded cult against the government. It's true. It really is, man. It's just a bunch of ex-government employees that hate the government and know that they waste money and are taking advantage of it. I mean, we've been saying this shit since the day I ended UCR. And we called out every single person that is the loudest voice today. We called out before we ended that show. And today I am right on all of it. All of it. I was right back then, but now everybody sees it. It's a grift. And I know that word's overused these days, but it's a genuine, all-out grift, not only on society, but within the halls of Congress. That's how high this grift has gotten. And god damn, I hope these chickens come to roost on your asses. I really do. But thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate the support.
Disclosure of that information into a routinized manner to normalize the discussion so that it's not sensationalized and so that it's normal and eventually boring. That would be the way to go.
This mission to make UFOs boring might be succeeding. Even Joe Rogan's
That's
podcast,
the mission.
which loves a good alien story.
That's the mission, to make UFOs boring. They want to make them boring so people will just report them, because and this is where I think the messaging is fucked up. Because I think the Department of Defense should be like, these things aren't boring. They're potentially dangerous. And if you see something, say something. Not only to government officials, but pilots and regular civilians. That should be the message coming out. From lawmakers especially. This is a national security issue. If you see something, say something, and have a number where they can collect and gather this data. 10,000 balloons released each day, and that doesn't even count the weather balloons. Somebody had put out here, I think it was like 1,300 weather balloons are released each day as well. Like, there should be a national reporting center to report this shit. There really should, especially these days. Like, we need it. Especially with the advancement of drones and the next generation drone technology that's already old that he's mentioning in this discussion.
Seems to be getting a little frustrated by how unfun Pentagon types have recently turned out to be when it comes to disclosing what they know about UFOs.
When we talked about disclosure in the old days, no one thought it would be this like
slow drip,
bureaucratic, slow fucking drip. It's so frustrating. I don't pay attention to it anymore. I mean,
they made the most exciting thing boring.
They fucking ruined it.
And it's true. They ruined it. And you know, that's why I'm thinking like part of Lou Elizondo's mission to kill ufology, this is it. To make it boring. I don't know if that's his mission or if his mission is to seriously grip the shit out of this. But when the dust settles on this, we're going to find out one way or the other. I mean, we really are. Yeah, man, they're making it boring on purpose. So yeah, I don't know if this camp, because both of these camps could be literally feeding each other. They could be two heads on the same snake. You know, they're like two factions, counter factions that are feeding on both sides of this discussion, and they're pinning everybody against each other. And I mean, who knows, man? Who knows at this point? Who knows? But I think it's becoming clearer and clearer every day. And I want to say, who knows? I mean, the facts are what the facts are, you know, and it seems like, and I'm going to lean towards, this is just a bunch of UFO zealots, a bunch of UFO believers within our national government that took a lie as far as you possibly could take it. And they're almost at the end of their road. And just like Kirkpatrick, I believe, said in this interview at some point, or somebody had said something along the lines of giving them enough rope to hang themselves. And that's what's happening. Like they're literally tying the noose around their own necks, because there's no good way this is going to end for Elizondo, Mellon, Corbell, Knapp. I hope that the government wants to find out how a guy like Jeremy Corbell is leaking information like the information he's leaking, and then using it to sell narratives and call out the United States military and government the way he's called you guys out. I hope there's repercussions for that. I really, really do. We'll see if there is.
Wanted to give you the opportunity to exclusively tell us on this podcast that you have found evidence of extraterrestrials.
The best thing that could have happened in this job is I found the aliens and I could have rolled them out, but there's none. There is no evidence of extraterrestrials. There is no evidence of aliens, and there's no evidence of the government conspiracy.
Sadly, for all the UFO lovers out there, that's probably the biggest takeaway from the report that Kirkpatrick and his team just delivered to the US Congress. Plenty of outsiders have speculated about whether the Pentagon's alien-focused programs were coming up empty and perhaps were suspiciously self-perpetuating. The significance of what Kirkpatrick is saying now and what the Arrow report is laying out is that people inside the Pentagon with really high security clearances are finally saying, we looked at every single piece of secret evidence about supposedly alien UFOs, and as far as we can tell, it's humans all the way down. So given that, what to make of that small, stubborn percentage of...
It's humans all the way down. All of it is explainable. All of it is, if you have enough of the data, it's terrestrial. And there's nothing, I mean, and I do believe Kirkpatrick when he says if he did find something, yeah, he'd love to be the first guy to roll that out, because number one, he's a scientist. And number two, who wouldn't want to be the guy who introduces that truth to the world? I mean, you'd be the most famous person on the planet instantly. But listen to this. This is pretty interesting.
UFO reports that don't have any easy explanations. And this is where believers and debunkers tend to differ. And Kirkpatrick makes it pretty clear that his office thinks that the truth behind that small, unexplained percentage will most likely be found right here on Earth.
Occam's razor is a valid axiom. If you are faced with a set of data and it may fit two different theoretical, hypothetical explanations, the one that's more simple is usually the right one. What is more likely, that a adversary has come up with a new technology, or we have extraterrestrials? Or even simpler than that, what's more likely, the fact that there's a state-of-the-art technology that's being commercialized down in Florida that you didn't know about, or we have extraterrestrials? That makes me scratch my head sometimes when people do that. And it even makes me scratch my head more when you show them, here's the company in Florida that builds exactly what you've described. And their response is, well, no, it's got to be extraterrestrials and you're covering it up.
I mean, do you think by setting up this office, paradoxically, you just increase the media interest? Is this sort of fueling the fire of these kinds of people who think there probably are aliens out there? Or...
By the way, Peter Bergen, great fucking questions. Great questions. Is this fueling the fire? And listen to his answer.
That's a really good question. We've actually debated that on many, many occasions of, are we adding more fuel to this fire or not? You are absolutely correct that there is absolutely nothing that I'm going to do, say, or produce evidentiary that is going to make the true believers convert, if you will. I mean,
there's nothing I could say, do, or present evidentiarily that will change the mind of the true believer. There's nothing you could produce. No factual, concrete thing you could put in front of their face where they'll be like, oh shit, you're right. I was wrong. Because it's too much for them. And thankfully, I mean, honestly, I really thank my lucky stars that I have a family, I have girlfriend, I have extracurricular activities, I have things that I love and that I do outside of this discussion. Because if I had not, I would be Matt Ford today. I would be that UFO podcast today. I'd be raking in a shit ton of money. I'd be knowing it's fake and still perpetuating the mystery of it because it's good for my bottom line and it's good for me. For me. And my family. I have a family to feed. I would be those guys today. And this audience that I have now would be 10, 15, 20, 30 times the size. And that's not me blowing smoke up anyone's ass. Everyone knows that's a fact. So when people ask you, what's the best show to listen to on this topic? Do me the favor, share them with my channel. Give them the link to my show. Because I'm one of the only, as far as I know, the only podcast host that has walked away from thousands and thousands, possibly, who knows, millions of dollars to not perpetuate conspiracy theory and bullshit. Because there's already enough of that happening in this country. We don't need more of it. And I'm not going to be the one to perpetuate it. I don't give a shit how much money you throw at me. And that's what these guys didn't understand about me. They thought I was Matt Ford. They thought I was Rob Heatherly. They thought I was Thomas Fessler or Andy McGrillen or Zignal. They thought that I would sell out my principles for money. And when you're getting wellness checks from guys like Bob Pliskin, say, well, what's going on, man? Isn't the channel making a ton of money? Why are you going to blow? Why are you going to ruin that? Why? Because fuck you, that's why. Because it's not true. That's why. Because what you guys are selling is bullshit. That's why. Now I don't look as crazy. And now I hope you guys kind of understand why I was so pissed off. And a lot of people will say, oh, I was such a kiss ass to Lou Elizondo, this, and that. I'm like, Lou Elizondo was my friend. That's what I considered him, a friend. And a lot of people either don't realize or just forget that I started the Big Phone Home before Lou Elizondo ever came on my show. I had my show for a year before Elizondo ever came on my show, before I ever asked him to come on my show. Because I wanted a good reason to ask him to come on my show, not just I want an interview. I want to actively do something to help further the discussion and help the initiative. I genuinely came into this with the intention of helping and connecting people and using my natural gift of humor and goodwill to make those connections happen. And it worked. It worked for one event. It worked for really beautifully for one event. And then once the community got jealous of me, it was over. Who's this new guy? Why does he have all these guests? Why are people loving his show? Oh, he's only in it for the money. He's only in it for the clicks. He's only in it for this, and this. And then when I turn around and walk away from the clicks and the money and all of that stuff that comes along with a growing channel, then it's, oh, I'm a backstabber and traitor and liar. So which one is it? I'll tell you which one it is. I'm fucking right. I'm right and you're wrong. All of you guys are wrong. And so if you need to know where to go to get the right information and get actual opinions that are rooted in unbiased opinion and thought, come here, share this show. Become a Patreon member. Support the fuck out of us. Because we're the only ones who've got the balls and the gumption to tell the truth and actually stick to it. Very few out there in this UFO podcast circuit. Now everybody wants a podcast about UFOs. Everyone's starting a new show. And they're all focused around the mystery of it. Because that's where the money is. That's where the suckers are. Well, if you're tired of being a sucker, subscribe to this show. Subscribe to this show. All right, let's see what Richard Dolan has to say. Is that everything that... Oh, no, wait. Hold on a second. Kirkpatrick has one more thing to
It's
say.
like a religion. It is basically a religion. So that group of people you're never going to convince.
Yeah, I think
If you're interested in the issues and stories in this,
yeah, so that's the whole interview. And like I said, guys, I have a link to this whole interview in the description below, so go check it out. I've got a link to the Skyfire News, so these clips that I'm playing, you can go check those out. This is a clip that John Greenwald put out of Richard Dolan, and it's saying here that Richard Dolan is suggesting friends, plural, more than one, of him and his wife who were working at a, quote, deeply classified levels on UFO-related programs appear to have been assassinated because they were a security risk. Instead of saying this on the podcast, let me see here. Where'd it go? Instead of saying this on a podcast, why aren't authorities involved to blow this wide open? The host, Jerry Mishlove, did not follow up asking questions about any evidence of the claim. Instead, he went on a talk about Bob Lazar. So this is, I guess, the Jerry Mishlove show, and this is the clip from his show. So let's listen to what Dolan says.
But I think probably their number one concern is maintaining security. I was just reviewing some of these ideas last night. I was chatting with my wife, Tracy, about this, in fact, and we were just reading another source that indicated that at deeply classified levels, some of the people working on these programs, their lives could very well be at risk. If you're a scientist working on this tech, you might think that you are indispensable, but there's a good reason to think that you wouldn't be. If you were a security risk, your life would very likely end very quickly.
Right, which is why Bob Lazar's still walking around with his Element 115, right? That's why Dave Grusch is still walking around, because he's such a big whistleblower, right? This is completely untrue. Again, that there are laws in place right now that require you by law to report government programs that are hidden SAPs that have to do with reverse engineered alien spacecraft. There are protections for you. If you want to come forward today, you will not be killed like Richard Dolan is suggesting here from his super secret double source, more than one source, him and his wife talk to. So him and his wife get to talk to this super secret double agent. I know a guy. Trust me, bro. I know a guy.
And I'll just point out that
fucking
my wife and I
assholes.
both know of specific instances in which high-level classified scientists appear to have been assassinated. These individuals
High-level classified scientists appeared to have been assassinated. Who? What university? What scientists? What lab? Where? And to think that, like Julian Dory had this guy on his show, or I don't know if it was Julian Dory or the other guy, just like parading these guys around and just platforming them even more, platforming their bullshit even more. And this is why this is going to be my beef with Skyfire News. Like, I was in a Twitter space the other day where they had Ashton Forbes as part of their experts of, I don't know if he's a fish. He wasn't like a co-host or anything, but the fact that you let this guy in there and display or present himself like a voice of reason in a confusing discussion, and at the other side of his mouth, he's still pushing MH370 as a real fucking thing. And I was asked to debate him on this. Why? He's a liar. He's a proven hoaxer. Just ask him where the video comes from. We've already discussed this on my show. An Anon account where the other videos are fake UFO videos. Why are we taking that account's MH370 video and dissecting it the way he has? It's fake. So there is no debate. I'm not debating that asshole. He doesn't debate. He just diarrheas at the mouth with all of this data and all of this shit that sounds like facts, and it's not. It's just mumbo jumbo bullshit. And we're sitting here just letting him be the voice of reason? It's a joke. If you're going to do this, Skyfire News, hold these people accountable when they end up in your spaces. And it's happened not from you guys, but from other people within these spaces. Like the other day, we'll play the clip. But let's listen to the rest of this one. But it's just like, everybody walks on eggshells when they get in front of these people. When they actually show up in these spaces and they're saying things. Like, nobody asked Brandon Fugel, hey, if the Skinwalker paradox is real, if it's a real thing, right? Because he claims it attaches himself to not only people that come to the ranch, but crew members of the TV show have claimed this. Members of the Skinwalker team have claimed balloons, their heads balloon up. They have the Skinwalker. It's given their friends cancer. Okay, fine, Brandon Fugel. If that's real, why the fuck are you guys parading around the country hugging and shaking hands at UFO conferences? Aren't you afraid you're going to give the Skinwalker to other people? Nobody asked him that question. The only person who pushed back on him was Mick West, and it was a great clip. And it's something that went viral. And I think that's what Skyfire News is in this for. To get these people in a space, to get them recorded so then they can make a clip and have it go viral. And I'll be damn, who gives a shit what the truth is? Let's just report on it. And fine. Like, if that's what you guys want to do, fine. I see it. And I think the reason why it annoys me a little bit is because I know the guys who run this. I know the guys who run it, and I know what they believe. And I know the stuff that they propagate. And I know that they believed and made videos in support of Ashton Forbes as if he's some fucking hero. He's a goon. He's a liar. And you guys don't have the gumption or the moxie to call him out on it. And that's what bothers me. That's what bothers me. Anyway.
Our relations of friends of ours that we've come to know. And I do think it's true that those people probably were targeted for essentially assassination because they became security risks, despite how advanced their science was and how invaluable they probably were. Nothing overrides the security, very likely.
Oh my God, you're so full of shit, James Dolan. You're so full of shit, Richard Dolan. Not James Dolan, Richard Dolan. Dude is he's just so full of shit. Anyway, okay, so this is the clip right here that this is one of the clip. Get to the Mick West clip here in a second. But yeah, this is a claim, you know, and I'll get into like why this is just an interesting back and forth. But let's listen to this clip again. Skyfire News. I got the link in the description below. Go check them out.
So hey,
so sorry.
I'm just diving in. I'm in the middle of a couple of other things, but wanted to answer any questions. So I'm a little late to the game. Don't know exactly the context or what is being discussed, but I would be happy to answer any question quickly relative to anyone being paid.
And
so
you don't mind?
So
yeah.
So I just want to make clear, I have never heard of anyone being paid to try to promote some narrative at Skinwalker Ranch relative to my operation and my deal. So I'm curious, who was the individual claiming that they'd been paid off, him or her?
It was that. Yeah. So, like Brandon, we've talked quite a bit, right? You know, when I used to have Let's Just Spaces, and I was very open about how much I love Skinwalker Ranch. You know, I'm friends with Carl and with Chris Bartell and you. And then someone approached me and said, "Hey, They said that they worked with you. It was either with you or with Prometheus Entertainment."
I wonder who. Do you recall who it was? Because I can shut that. I can confirm that now, or at least
they did not give me a name.
Oh,
okay, yeah. See, like, man, I'm not saying UFO Shane is lying about this. Now, the claim here is that UFO Shane was getting about $800 a month from employees of Skinwalker Ranch and people who were employed through this ranch, and he was given $800 a month to positively promote the Skinwalker Ranch theory and show on his UFO Twitter spaces, which I guess were getting pretty big at some point, where there was a few thousand people in this guy's spaces. And he claims that he was getting $800 a month. Okay, who? Well, I can't remember. You can't remember who's giving you $800 a month? Like, how do you not remember? I could tell you, if I had a Patreon member that was giving me $800 a month, I know exactly who the fuck that is. And it's not like you could send, like mysterious Venmos. Like, you have to have accounts connected to it. So, who was it?
Oh,
they had.
Then they're full of it.
Twitter. I know.
Then anyone who doesn't put their name on this stuff and is willing to put their reputation out on the line has zero credibility. They're nothing but
Dude, I totally agree.
And no offense.
I totally agree. This is what I hate about Shane's spaces. He does the same thing, you know, where everybody is trying to be nice to everyone and respect them. If you're going to make a claim like this, you need to have names. And if you're getting $800 a month, then where are the receipts? How did they pay you? What app? Did they give you a check? Where did the check come from? Like, how are you getting this money? How are you getting $800 a month? And there should be a paper trail for it or a digital trail for it. Really, that should be really easy to prove. And then when you call him out on it, he turns around like, I totally agree. You shouldn't trust anyone that's anonymous. So then how do you know? Why would you go out and say these things? And again, like, I've got my issues with Brandon Fugel, but he never once fucking paid me to be positive about Skinwalker Ranch. No one from anyone connected to him ever once approached me about paying me to talk positively or paying me for anything having to do with Skinwalker Ranch. So I don't know why Shane was getting these proposals, but if you are, you need to prove it. You can't just say this shit. You have to prove it with evidence. And unfortunately for Shane, and these are just facts, I'm not saying this to degrade anyone, but more than half the times, those spaces that he hosted, he was 3 sheets to the wind. He was heavily intoxicated. So it's hard to take the word of a heavily intoxicated, and I'll just leave it at that, because I don't need to rub any more salt in the wound as I already have. But it's just very difficult to just take your word for it. And then, we clip this and then share it as if it's news, as if this is newsworthy stuff, when the allegations in the first place never provided proof of these allegations. So we're just taking these things.
And
totally
to those
agree.
who want to be anonymous, who want to maintain their anonymity, that's fine, and that's one of the beauties, I suppose, of the X or Twitter of the Twitter platform.
I did just mute myself. That was an accident. Sorry.
There is the
Thanks,
ability
guys.
to maintain a healthy distance and anonymity, which is fine. But if someone is going to make a definitive claim, especially relative to being paid to manipulate a narrative
Dude,
or anything else like that,
they sent me on your name, Brandon. They sent me, and I have the Bitcoin address. They sent me $800 a month for three or 4 months.
$800 a month.
It was through Bitcoin. And by the way, I'm going to send that address to Keemstar, and we're going to find out who the fuck this dickhead was.
Yeah, that doesn't sound legit, to be quite honest. The transfers in cryptocurrency and shadow accounts or accounts that can't be traced or whatever, that just simply sounds like someone who is being paid to manipulate the narrative, because someone's not going to come out of their own pocket personally, typically with $800 a month or whatever, to pay someone to simply pontificate, unless they're part of some effort to again,
Dude,
manipulate the narrative.
I'm telling you, Brandon. You can ask Kimball. You can ask other people that know me. I thought that I was like an ambassador, dude.
How
you know what I mean?
strange.
Like I thought that,
well, the good news is
I literally, but I didn't. But, when it stopped happening, I didn't believe it.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's that. Let's see here. There was something else I wanted to. Oh yeah, here's George Knapp crying about being admonished for putting out bullshit out there. But yeah, let's listen to what George, again, Skyfire News clip. Link in the description.
But we've been admonished in recent times. We should not be releasing UAP, UFO imagery of any kind, footage, photos, not until the government and or some other entity has done a full investigation. You and I are irresponsible for sharing these kind of images with the public. One guy, Rich Hoffman from SCU, who said that he equates us with Jaime Maussan, the guy with the alien mummies, which broke
right.
my heart, because now we've got our own alien mummies. We're going to take them to SCU. What are we going to do now? But, in Rich's estimation, we need to share this with the government and not put this stuff out to the public. We are not making a claim that this is alien craft. The same with the USS Omaha, the Sphere,
Yes, you are.
the pyramids. We don't know what those things are. We just know that they were investigated by our government, and our government classified them as UAP.
But here's the problem, is you do know what they are. Because once you put the information out there, the internet quickly deciphered it, figured it out, gave you the answer, and you guys ignored it and omitted it. And you guys actually, in some cases, came across the same information, but just willfully ignored it. Like, for example, the largest military air exercise in the history of the United States was happening the exact same night that 29 Palms was filmed that you guys investigated for 3 fucking years. How did you leave that out? How did you guys leave that out? Willfully.
We think that this is going to be classified as UAP as well, but the fact is that that footage, whoever has it, has sat on it and hasn't shared it.
Oh, man. This was actually kind of cool. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Stephen Greenstreet put this out. Imagine this on a billion-dollar Imagine the billion-dollar military version of this invisible shield. I mean, like, can you imagine this on a plane? You know, or some kind of vehicle? You know, a billion-dollar version of this? Dude, insane. It'd be crazy. It's really cool. Anyway, let me see here. There was something I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, this is something that came out today. This is Stephen Greenstreet. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand's official congressional calendar shows she had a classified UFO briefing yesterday, January 23rd. Gillibrand spearheaded the creation of AARO, the Pentagon's UFO office. Sean Kirkpatrick's AARO's director recently resigned. And why doesn't it show more when I click show more? What is going on? And claimed Congress has been duped by a group of dubious UFO activists. So I have a feeling, and I said this a few weeks ago, this is why Senator Gillibrand and Rubio and all of these powerful lawmakers went dead ass silent on this, because they got a breakdown and a debrief by Sean Kirkpatrick, and he told them exactly what's happening. And they cooled their jets, and now they understand exactly what's going on. And I think, if they are having classified UAP briefings, I promise you Dave Grusch isn't in there. I don't think Dave Grusch is in there, but we'll see. Maybe he did get his clearance approved. We shall see. We'll see what comes out of this, if anything. But this could just be a simple meeting with AARO, a classified meeting with the people at AARO. So if that's what that is, just an update on what's happening. We'll see. We'll see what's going on. Okay. So I think, pretty sure that's everything I wanted to talk about. I know there was another clip. I thought it was John Greenwald posted it. Let me check you, Skyfire News. Let me check you guys again. Like, I don't agree with them 100% philosophically, but they do a pretty damn good job of clipping everything that's said and done. So this is a quote from Lou Elizondo. Let's talk about this for a second. Let me repeat, this is a quote from Lou Elizondo. Many, capitalized, people who I know personally have spoken to AARO and provided detailed information to Kirkpatrick and his office for the record. If AARO isn't willing to tell the truth to Congress, we are at Chris Mellon. Who, Lou Elizondo? Who are the many people? Here's a quote from Chris Mellon. I'm baffled because in an effort to assist his investigation, I introduced Dr. Kirkpatrick to the former director of ATIP program, Luis Elizondo, as well as Dr. Eric Davis and Hal Puthoff. No wonder why Kirkpatrick is backing off of you morons. Each of these prominent voices associated with the ATIP program spent hours debriefing Kirkpatrick in a classified setting. None have received any feedback. I wonder why. Well, and we don't have to wonder why. We exactly heard why. These guys come into their office, these believers within our government that hold high positions of authority and power, come into his office as true believers, and then he explains the prosaic Occam's razor explanation as to what's happening, and they don't believe it. They go crying to the public. Let's see. Oh, this is the clip I wanted to get into. It was a John Greenwald clip. I wonder if it's on his page. He was responding to someone. Black Vault. There we go. Let's see here. Here it is. This is the clip I wanted to share.
Skepticism's never.
So, I think this is the clip I wanted to share. No, wait. Here it is. This is the clip. So,
what are your thoughts
this
on the
is
idea?
the same gentleman who gave us a $10 donation. I'm not here, and I'm not here. This isn't happening. He had donated a question to John, and the question was, what are your thoughts on the idea of condemning the con men, but having compassion for the conned? It's time to see this as a UFO cult, as the UFO cult that it is. The profiteers are the problem. Believers need help and a route out.
The idea of condemning the con men, but having compassion for the conned. It's time to see this as the UFO cult it is. The profiteers are the problem. Believers need help and a route out. Well, look, that is a loaded comment, and one that I will say this to. Yes, people need to be called out. And that's why I get a lot of hate from people where it's not all the time calling people out, but it's asking questions that many people are afraid to ask. And when people are afraid to answer them, you know that that's a red flag, and that needs to be pushed on. And look, I get myself in a lot of trouble, but I live life with no regrets. I have zero regrets for pushing back on those that make big claims. And I think that that's what we need to do. That's what we need to move forward with the mindset of, is to push back on those that are sitting on things for years just to premiere them and make money off of them, right? That's a problem. I have no problem with people writing books. I have a lot of problems with people writing books and saying that
Great question.
Going to give you never before heard
Just
information,
kidding.
even though they've already said that before, but all of a sudden, like, new stuff comes out for the book. That type of false misrepresentation of things it gets to me. It irks me a lot. So that is something that we all should point out, and we should all push back on. Because you said compassion for the conned. I've learned this so many times over especially the last 7 years, but quite a bit over the last 27, in that people are so genuine. Truly, the majority are so genuine with what they want from getting involved in this conversation. Some have experiences that I believe they really want to know the answers to. They're not trying, most of them are not trying to sell you what they experienced, but rather they're trying to understand it. Others, I think, don't have experiences, but they want answers. They're curious. That's where I was at the age of 15. I've never experienced anything. That's where I still am now. So I think you have a lot of genuine people out there that, yeah, it really, forgive my language, pisses me off that people use that to their advantage.
Right.
And that's what you see. They'll put a huge water jug out and say, give cash to me and I will give you answers. And they take your cash and they disappear.
Right.
And you never see it again. You don't really see anything. Now, that's not an analogy or some hypothetical. I've literally seen that numerous times over the years. And those water jugs get full of cash.
Every
20s,
time.
50s, hundreds, and a lot of them. And it just kind of disappears. And that stuff makes me upset because you're taking that genuine curiosity, the genuine experiences that people really, truly have been affected by, and you're profiting off of it. And that irks me. Now, taking a little bit away from the emotional part of it, yeah, it irks me also to see people like, I'm sorry, like Jeremy and like George nowadays that are like dangling carrots all the time.
And this is what I love. Oh, man, damn it.
What are your thoughts? Again, you don't really see anything. Now, that's not an analysis. And those water jugs, getting that stuff makes me affected by. And you're profiting off of it. And like George nowadays, that are like dangling carrots all the time.
This is what I love. This is what I'm going to say. I love that he's calling him out by name now. John's had it. And when I tell you John is sitting on a lot of information, especially when it comes to me and the whole Lou Elizondo experience, he's sitting on some very interesting information that even further validates everything that I've said. Everything that I've said. And so one day that stuff's going to come out. And the thing with John is he's patient. Like, he's really, really patient, and he's waiting for all the chips and all the dust to settle. And when they do, I think maybe one day that stuff will come out at the right time. And whenever that will be, I don't know. We shall see. I hope it's soon. I have a feeling it's going to be soon, because I don't think this op-ed and this podcast with Kirkpatrick is going to be the last thing we hear out of the Aero office or the people that represent it. So we'll see what happens. But, you know, I equate and relate so much to what John's saying here. When you come into this discussion with the best of intentions and these people manipulate you, they blackmail you, they use you, they talk shit behind your back, right? And they get everything that they need out of you. And the second you question them, the second you doubt their bullshit, is the second that they send their legions of meatheads to attack you. And or they take advantage of you to a point where you don't realize and you don't question, you just keep going along with it. And that's what they want, because you're there to fill up their bucket with cash and paywalls. That's why we never had a paywall on this show. I never, ever, ever had a paywall on this show, and I still don't have a paywall on this show. If you donate to the show, it's because you love the show. There is no secret information. There is no special access here for this show. It's free for everyone, because the information that we're talking about should be free. It always should be free. There should be no one ever profiteering or telling you, oh, there's a secret thing coming, secret information coming in my movie or behind my paywall, or early access to this interview that doesn't give you any new information. That UFO podcast.
All the time. What's the point of that? If you want transparency from the U.S. government, then be transparent with those around you that depend on you, that trust you for the information that you claim you have. And I think to a point they do have some information. But again, it comes back to, I don't think it's hoaxed. I don't think they're trying to pass off CG to all of us, but rather I believe that they're purposefully missing context, not giving it to you,
right,
omitting it. That way they can kind of dangle that carrot in the way that they do. And yes, I'm sorry, they're profiting off of it. And where do we draw the line on that? It's okay for people to support their work. I support anybody who, again, writes a book. I support anybody who has a paywall. I don't agree with that. I don't have them. But if they decide that they want to do a paywall, fine. If you want to make big promises, expect to be called out. If you've got a $20 a month price tag for your blog and you're promising insider information, sorry, you're putting a target on your back from some people, and one of those might even be me, because I don't agree with that. But look, if they do,
I love it. I love that John's here.
Go ahead, but it doesn't mean that they shouldn't be called out. And I think that genuine, I don't want to call them the conned, but I mean that genuine group of people. That's why I get passionate. I have seen people face to face over the years, thousands of people, thousands of them. I've spoken at a ton of conferences over the years and met thousands of people. And there are amazing individuals out there that just want the truth. And it pisses me off to no end to see people take advantage of that. And they continue to take advantage of that. And at high noon, we'll go ahead and sell you something else because they're taking advantage of that. I'm sorry, that needs to be called out. You don't sit on things for years and claim you're back checking it and doing background and so on and so forth, because when it's actually revealed what it is, there's no way in heck you were doing much. Sorry. Right. That sounds rude. That sounds mean. That sounds like an attack.
And this is, that's like that's how careful John has to be, because he's got a business too, man. Like, right? Like he and this is like one of the few times that he's actually named them, George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell, for dangling carrots and fucking with people and using them to gain profit. Profits of profit. That's what they are. That's who these guys are. Trust me, bro. I'm a prophet of profit. And John has had enough.
If something came,
he's had enough. And to a point where, but he's still got to preface it with like, and I'm sorry if that sounds rude. No, it doesn't sound rude. That's fucking fact, John. You're right on the money, man. Don't be afraid. Come to the dark side, my man. Like, go. Don't apologize. That's all I would say to John is don't apologize. Like it's time for us to stop walking on eggshells when it comes to calling out our colleagues when they're spreading bullshit. And that's why I don't mind calling out Skyfire News for always hosting and placating to people's bullshit like Ashton Forbes. And I saw that he's here in the chat and he wants to be friends. Like, dude, you sat there and badmouthed me after, and I didn't even go after you. Like, I just called out the facts. You know, like, so we cannot be afraid to call out colleagues and be blunt about it. And it's not personal. It's like getting slammed by a chef. I've been watching a lot of Hell's Kitchen. It's like when a chef rips into your asshole. He's not doing it because he hates you. He's doing it because he wants you to get better. Like now. And this walking on eggshells thing doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore. We have to be more blunt. And we have to be brave in naming these guys. Just like Sean Kirkpatrick should have done today. He should have said Mellon. He should have said Elizondo. He should have said Knapp and Corbell. He said Bigelow. Name them. So that way people know exactly who they are. And when you got a guy like John Greenwald calling out Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp, it's a good day indeed.
Thing came across my desk. I am not going to sit on it. I will verify it, but I can do it rather quickly. And if you can't, then maybe it's not worth putting out. Of course, it's a case-by-case basis. But regardless, you don't sit on something for years and then sell it through TMZ.
Right.
I that's just me. If people call that an attack, so be it. But it's the genuine people that are out there, and that is why I'm here. That's why I do what I do. And that's why I move forward with FOIA requests, trying to educate the public as much as I can, and in the same respect, trying to learn as much as I can. Because I want to make sure that when I do videos that are not tech checks like this one, that we're putting out as the best information that we can. I say we because we're all in this together. I'm not any better or worse than anybody else. But I try and make sure that I give you all of that information that I can. And I would wish and hope that others would want to do the same. Sadly, they don't. So should we call them out? Absolutely.
Yep.
And I will continue to do so. And
good man.
You know, the echo chamber that loves to attack me on Twitter because they think like it's all about Twitter. They don't know anything beyond, Twitter, X, I know, but the UFO Twitter crowd, the people that go out and if you say anything that's against disclosure, well, it's not even against disclosure. It's just you don't believe that it's happening, but they think you're the Antichrist. So they're just going to come at you full bore. I'm sorry. That is not what this field is about. Excuse me. It's not what this field is about. It's not why I'm here. And so, yeah, you just let them live in their echo chamber, and we'll continue to call out those that are kind of outside that echo chamber, but they're preaching to it. And those are the ones that, need to be called out, and I'll continue to do so. So that's my rant.
I love it. I love it, man. I love when John does stuff like that, man. I really, really do. And it's rare. He's such a nice guy, and he really does hold his tongue on a lot of stuff. And yeah, man, I know he watches this show. He's been in the chats before, and man, yeah, John and I talk quite a bit, and I know there's a lot of people out there that wish they could say the things I say the way I say them, and they just can't. And I get it. Oh, we got a donation. Puxley, thank you so much for the $10 donation. Self-licking ice cream cones. That is such, I've never heard that expression used, self-licking ice cream cones, but it makes perfect sense when you think about it. And it's true, man. Like, I kind of want to make a shirt now of a self-licking ice cream cone. But thank you so much for the support. I truly appreciate it. You guys, that's the show. That's where I'm going to end it on. I'm going to end it on John Greenwald absolutely destroying everything. I love it, man. I absolutely love it. You guys, I cannot thank you enough. We had a huge audience today. Thank you all for being here. If you haven't already, subscribe, like the show, share the channel, ring the bell. That way you're notified anytime we go live. We don't have a hard schedule, just because ever since I've been manipulated, harassed, and blackmailed, I don't really care to schedule this topic. It doesn't deserve that kind of attention from my life anymore, but I still love talking about it. I still love, more than anything now, being able to see the bullshit, being able to put on the glasses and see the billboard for what it really is. They live, man. That's what this show is now. And I enjoy doing it, but yeah, it's just, there's so many other things that I gotta devote my time to. But yeah, I love you guys for being here. I love you guys for all the support. I can't appreciate you guys enough. It's been a hell of a ride. And I tell you, man, it's been very validating the last week, especially. And when I heard this podcast today, I listened to the whole thing. It was everything that we've been saying on this show. Everything that we've been saying on this show for the last year and almost 2 years. Almost 2 years now. I can't believe it's been 2 years. Almost, since we've split ways with the community and Lou Elizondo, all for telling the truth. So again, if you find that kind of stuff valuable, smack that subscribe button, hit the like button, share the show. And if you want to support the show with the almighty dollar, we've got links to our Patreon in the description below. Again, no paywalls here, no extra access. It's just because you love the fucking show. So if you do, please support, because it helps. Trust me when I tell you, it does help. All right. So with that said, I want to say thank you to everyone who was in the chat. Renee Cruz, Alien Scientist, thank you so damn much. Beverly Holmes, Wise Monkey, my boy Matthew Riot. Where is he in the chat here? Breeder Syndicate. There you are, my man. That was one of the first guys to wake me up to all of this nonsense. So obviously I've got a lot of love and admiration for Matthew there. Why isn't my oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, I want to say hello to some other people. Kim Harassment Archive, hello. Thank you for being here. Horse Lover Fat. Great name. Thank you for being here. Skilly, thank you for being here. Ace of Spades, thank you for being here. Simon Fly, old school supporter, thank you so damn much. Let's see here. 75 YBA, thank you for being here. And Steve Long, the amazing Steve Long. We've got a great interview with him in our archive. If you guys want to go check that out, please do. All right, y'all. I love you. Have a great night. Peace out.